Yo, yo, yo. Well, I was about to start it like it was a podcast. That was weird. By myself, going solo tonight. Welcome back, and everybody to another episode of Only Bruins podcast. Shout out Boosie for the intro. Um, yeah. So Don Sweeney did a press conference today. A little trade deadline press conference. Just it's pretty much a whole lot of nothing, but I thought why not better than to break down the whole not a nothing he talked about, since it's my favorite week of the year and it is trade deadline week. So I honestly just took a bunch of notes from the press conference itself. And so I'm gonna probably kind of be going all over the place, unfortunately. Some of this might make sense, some of it might not. There's gonna be a lot of rambling. There's gonna be a lot of inputting players that I think should be traded or whatever, who I think the Bruins are talking about or who they're going after or what have you. So I'm pretty much just gonna ramble this whole video. If you're there in the comments and you want to comment, I will answer them. And what else was I gonna say? Sorry, I'm kind of all over them. My brain's a little scrambly today. I got Ricky brain from Trailer Park Boys today. Can't think of learning nothing. But yeah, pretty much just gonna go off of the questions that were asked and the notes that I took from that. I'm not gonna hammer down every single question that Don Sweeney was asked throughout all of this, but yeah, so like let's just jump right into it. One of the first notes I have is he won't be as aggressive and active as last year, and that kind of made me laugh because like to me that's the biggest it's the biggest famous last words from Don Sweeney. I think he said that right before he traded for Orlov, Hathaway, and Bertuzzi. So I don't really believe him. I wouldn't be shocked if you see a big blockbuster, happen from the Bruins over the next 5 days. Oh yeah, by the way, if you don't know already, the trade deadline is Friday at Friday at the deadline's Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern. There we go. Split it up, Brett. And I will, well, not just me and the Bobby Brewski, the myth, the man, the legend himself, will be doing a 8 to 10 hour live stream like usual. Just trying to, every year I think about it and I'm like, dude, I don't know if I can do it again this year. I think 2 years ago I went 9 hours, no water, no food, just strawberry Bud Lights. That was crazy of me. But yeah, it's gonna be really fun. We got Bobby coming on. We got a couple guests coming on here and there. It's always a good time. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel because it will be on there. It'll be on X as well, but it's easier to comment on the YouTube channel, from what I've been told. So like I said, famous last words. They won't be as aggressive as and active as they were last year. Sorry, I'm looking over here because I've got two screens, and I need to read off that one because I don't have enough room on this one. But he does want to reward the team and improve the hockey club if possible. I think we all knew that. He's been saying that for a while. Like they're looking at getting scoring. It's pretty matter of fact. They need scoring. Swayman played a hell of a game against the Flyers. Can't win games if you don't put the puck in the net. So I do think they're actively looking for to add some goal scoring to this lineup. Is it going to add and subtract? Is it going to be a hockey trade? I don't know. That it's so hard to gauge everything this year. Like anytime I get notes from people, they're all just like very like vague. I keep hearing Elliot Friedman and other insiders talk about how like the prices are so high right now, but they wouldn't be shocked if it turns into a buyer's market because everyone doesn't want to get caught with their pants down, which funny, last year was a seller's market and Sweeney just decided to take full advantage of that, which I think we're all happy about to see where the team is now compared to a year ago. But you heard the greatest player of all time, Morgan Geeky, talk about how I'm sorry, I can't look at the camera. It's driving me crazy. How uh that they think he thinks the locker room he thinks that the team should be rewarded for how they've played this year. And I spoke on the last Only Bruins podcast and the last podcast I did with Court Lalonde over at Bruins Diehards. Make sure you go check that out. Give him a follow. He's a beauty. We were talking about the same thing. It's like, how do you, because everyone's like, trade Arvidsson, trade Arvidsson. How do you do that? How do you justify that? How do you go down to the locker room and you're just like, hey, guys, we tried it. We traded your second, whether you think he should be a second line right winger on your team or not, that line has worked well this year with Zaka, Middlestat, and Arvidsson. And how do you walk down to that locker room and go, yeah, we just traded Arvidsson for a second in 2028? Like, I just don't think it's fair to the guys in the room. Maybe they were listening to the pods because they came out and vocally said it in the media after, I don't know if it was their last game, but 2 games ago maybe. And then Don Sweeney in his press conference talked about how, like, you know, I like that players like Morgan Geeky are calling us out to improve this roster, at least give us a little bit of a bump here. Maybe not reconstruct the whole thing, which they did last year, but, you know, just give them a little bump to go into the playoffs here. Like, maybe not spend too much, maybe make a hockey trade. Court talked about how, like, you know, the writing's clearly on the wall for Peak. I'll get to that in a bit later, but, like, you know, lateral moves that, like, make your team a bit better right now. Those are things I could see them doing, but it was funny to see Geeky not call them out in the media, but almost express, like, hey, this isn't like last year. We're not sending anybody out the door this year. We need to add to this team, if anything, and you know, give this team a little bit of a bump here. Give them a little bit of boost going into this playoff run, because, like, I'll get to later, like, you're gonna need the depth. I think 17 games and 19 or 17 games to end the month, I think is what Sweeney said in his press conference. That's a lot of hockey. Almost swore Boosie, but that's a lot of hockey. A lot of hockey. Another thing that was mentioned, eye towards this year and years to follow as well. I think this is a big thing to mention when you're talking about Don Sweeney and the future of this roster and how he's building it. They did their teardown last year. I don't think they thought, I think they hoped, but I don't think they thought they were going to be where they are right now, which that's fine. You know, sometimes you get, sometimes you get a little more ahead in your plans. I keep seeing people say that the numbers, the underlying analytic metrics and numbers don't really say that this team can sustain, there you go, Brett, this for much longer. So I don't know. I'm the type of guy that's like, it's all vibes, baby. Like, I'm having a good time right now. This team's proven that you shouldn't be selling. If you need to move players or contracts out to make this overall roster better, like, I don't think anybody's going to be upset about that, but I just don't think it's the year to make a like, if a blockbuster falls into their lap and it makes them better today and they're giving up assets that they're comfortable giving up on that aren't untouchables and stuff, yeah, like that happens. You know, he said in the press conference, anything could change at a drop of a hat. Elliot Friedman's famous line, anything can change with a phone call. So, but I think the overall message and yeah, the overall message that he's trying to get through is like, we're not bringing in, we'll get to it a little more in a second, but we're not bringing in rentals. We're trying to bring in players that are a certain age, certain contract length, like players with term that are going to be a part of this core. So I think we all kind of knew that, but it was nice to hear him say, like, yeah, we're not just trading a first rounder for a rental, which would be so dumb for this Bruins team to do, because you're lucky to be in the spot you are already now, and the deals that have worked out the way they have. So it was good to hear that. yeah, it doesn't sound like they're going to sacrifice the future, what they're building for, but they will build for a run this year. It's pretty much everything I was just saying. Love that Kiki spoke out about the bump and how well they've played. Sweeney even said that himself. He was like, it was awesome to hear that. I know I talked about that a bit earlier, but I saw Pasternak came out and said same thing when he got asked if Sweeney should be adding at the deadline. He said, "Yeah, like we're not in the same position we were last year. Like they're literally in the thick of it. I think they're 4 points out of third place, and 4 points holding the wild card spot." I probably said that so dumb, but so they're right in the thick of it. And I don't know if they knew that. I think they hoped they would be, but I don't know if they knew that they'd be here at this point. So they're kind of just weighing every option right now. They're looking for players to be a part of the Pasternak, McAvoy, Swayman core. I think we all knew that, but it was nice to hear them hear him say that out loud. I put a tweet out about Tippett today. I'm gonna try and do a tweet of the day, like a trade of the day. Players that are rumored to be in Boston be in on, that I'll make like my own little trade. You guys can rip me apart. I don't care. I actually love it. Like I was going through some of the comments. I'm like, hell yeah. I love when people get so mad about this stuff because I'm passionate about it too. So I get it. You're passionate about your team. We all think we're armchair GMs. So I'm going to put out one a day though. I think I went a little over on that one, but like Tippett, that's the type of guy that like, scores goals. He's had the most 22 plus mile an hour bursts after McDavid. And I think he's had 3 or 4. He was next. McDavid's 1. He's 2. McDavid's had like 15 more than him, which is crazy. But we saw that at the Olympics. The silver medal hurts. But anyways, one thing he's going to be doing is balancing price now with what they actually see fit. And I thought this was a really interesting comment that he made because I think about this all the time. He was essentially talking about how you can trade for guys now, but the price now is probably the most expensive you'll ever trade for them. And this will go on to something I will talk about later, or I'll touch on something else he said later, but a price rate that you're going to pay for a guy now is going to be almost not double, but it's going to be a lot higher than if you were to trade for them at the draft. So these are things I think they're weighing out right now where it's like, okay, yeah, we could trade for, let's just say Robert Thomas because he's the buzzword right now. Okay, yeah, you could trade. Maybe Robert Thomas is a bad example because he's got a lot of term, but we'll just use him as the example. You could trade for him right now, but the trade's going to be a lot higher because you're pushing for the playoffs rather than if you just waited in the summer or the draft where you have a lot more time to negotiate these things out. Like you got to remember too, Don Sweeney, I know he's got a great team around him, but he's the GM of Team Canada. Like for the past couple months, all he's been worrying about is the Olympics. So we'll see what happens there. It's going to be interesting, but I don't want them to go out and pay a crazy price for a guy like, cause there's this too. Anybody can win when they get in. You see it all the time. You saw it with Kings. You've seen it with Florida. Like, I know they lost to Vegas, but like nobody had them going as far as they did that year. But, is it worth trading for these guys now, shaking things up, making a massive blockbuster or deal or trade like that, and not even getting out of the first round? Like these are things that bubble teams, retooling teams actually have to weigh out because yes, maybe you're not trading both your first round picks this year, but like you still don't want to like pony up and give a whole bunch for a guy that's like, wow, we could have just waited to do that in the summer or at the draft, maybe paid a little less and not messed up what we have. Like, I don't know. It's a lot of things to take into consideration, especially for a team that's like retooling on the bubble. So this isn't a place the Bruins have been for a while. It's going to be very interesting. It's fun as a fan because I've said it a million times. I had zero expectations going into this season, and honestly, they've blown me out of the water with how they've played. Guys turning around. Victor Arvidsson, great season. Middlestat, bounce back season. Zaka's looked great. Pasternak. Swayman came back around. McAvoy looks great. Gold medalist. Not a, almost swore Boosie. Not a big deal. But, all things considered, it's condensed season. Are you that guy, as Boosie would say? Are you not that guy? Well, maybe let's just wait and see if we can do some of these deals in the summer. So we'll see what happens with that. They're willing to exploit hockey. Can't spit it out today. Wow. I've been the worst for mumbling and almost talking over myself. Willing to explore hockey trades to make the groom better. Holy crap, I can't talk right now. Willing to explore hockey trades to make the group better, but not looking to deplete the roster. There we go. Shout out to me for getting through that. This one's interesting because then it's like, because you get the whole argument about Arvidsson, like, oh, but I want the second round pick. Well, Don Sweeney's basically said today that he's not going to tear this roster apart unless it means making them as good as they are today and better. Like, he said stuff about lateral moves. It doesn't really seem that like they're trying to do lateral moves. Like, I'm sure if something came up and they really loved the player, they would. But I don't think you're seeing a Middlestat, unless you need to move Middlestat's money out. I don't think you're seeing a Middlestat trade. Whether Hagen signs or not, I don't think you're seeing a Middlestat trade. I don't think you're seeing an Arvidsson trade. I think if they're selling anybody, Costa, I'll get to that in a second. If they're selling anybody, I think it's just going to be Peak. And yeah, could they move prospects to get better? Yeah, but he's talking about like taking from this actual roster today. So I don't see anybody getting traded till the summer that, because there's a lot of games and not a lot of days coming up. And then you have playoffs on top of that, and you're going to need that depth. So like, even if they didn't trade Peak, if they couldn't find a deal that they didn't, like I saw Connor Murphy went for a second, retained it just a little under what Peak makes. But we have contract spots that we can retain. So if you can get Peak down to, not a mathematician, but 1.25, I believe is 50% of his contract. Yeah, I think so. And if you could get somebody take him at 1.25, you get a second round pick. Like, yeah, I'm sure the Bruins would do that. No questions asked, because the money's pretty much already paid to him by this time of the year. And you're going to get the higher pick from it. But like, if they can't, I wouldn't be shocked if they just keep him as this 7th or 8th D, because he's not playing in the roster right now. So we'll see what happens there. Let me get to this question from Costa. I think a slight issue for Sweeney is it's still not a guarantee if we make the playoffs, which makes our own first round pick more valuable to keep, and it's very for what type of players we trade it for. So it's either Thomas or somebody else like that on that level, or guys like Tippett but can't use. Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. Like, my deal that I put out there was Middlestat to make the money work, Patra, and a second. And to be honest, I think that's kind of even an overpay. But like, you're getting a guy with 4 years of term. He's only got a 10-team no trade list. It's not like it's a no movement clause. He's almost a perennial 25 to 30 goal scorer on that not very good Flyers roster. So I wouldn't be giving it a first for Tippett, especially Toronto's, but like definitely not ours either. Thomas, I'm not giving up 2 first, Hagens and Middlestat or whatever to make the money work. Like, I'm sorry. I think Thomas is a good player, but like, I just don't think it's worth that trade package right now. Like, I get the term, I get the age, I get the production. I don't know. Something scares me away from the Thomas one. I just think the price is way too high. Like I saw the rumored price for him to go to Toronto is the first, Nyes, and Cowan. Like I'm not doing that deal, but like that's just me, in my honest opinion. Um, but yeah, you're right. It's very temperamental of what type of player we'd trade for. So we'll see what happens in the end. I think that's a move you'd see closer to the draft, like you're kind of saying too. Like, all right, where does our pick and Toronto's pick actually end up? And like then put a pin in the trade itself. But um yeah, to see where the picks actually end up. But I don't know. I'm not a big let's trade the farm for Robert Thomas guy. I know a lot of people are. I know a lot of people would call me crazy for it, but like I wouldn't even trade Dean Letourneau for him if I'm just being honest. Like I just don't think it's very productive. Um oh, whoopsies. Um do you think we do anything? Yeah, I think I wouldn't be shocked if they bring in if they do bring in a rental, it's a cheap one. I do think they are trying to bring in a scorer before the trade deadline. Will it happen? That's the biggest question for me. That's a question I don't know if I can really answer. I don't know if anybody can really answer at this point. But I just I don't know. It's a really weird year. Like I think teams are getting a little gun shy right now too because prices are so high. But I think a lot of teams are thinking that these prices are going to come down. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. Sorry, I'm reading comments as talking. But it's going to be interesting to see how it all actually works out. But I wouldn't be shocked if the moves that they make or the players that they bring in are very minor or doesn't actually doesn't move the needle for some people is what I'm gonna say. I guess we need a true number one center. I do Thomas for Middlestat, Poitras, Lori, and our first. That would solidify top six. With I'd only do that if Parenko's coming back. I'm not gonna lie. If you can get Parenko too and add another like Lysell or smaller pick, all right, then I listen to that. I would do because to be honest, I'm picking a right-handed D with Toronto's pick out of this draft. Another thing that Chris that you said there, don't forget Jim Montgomery loves Poitras and Lori. So I'm sure they'd be added to the trade. But I just think, yeah, honestly, yeah, I would really consider that deal. Do I think it gets done before Friday, like you're saying about Floor's pick, maybe get Parenko as well? I think that turns you into an automatic contender. You got Hagen's coming in that can replace Middlestat on whatever line needs to be replaced with that. And yeah, it solidifies the top six. Yeah. I don't hate it. I'm just not convinced Thomas is that guy, but maybe it's just because I have a sustained hate for the St. Louis Blues, and that could just be a me problem. Connor Garland, sorry, Nicholas, get him out of here. I'm good. I don't need him. For what it's gonna cost you, and him of being an eventual third liner for you, I don't know. I'm not the biggest Connor Garland guy. I get why everyone is, but I just don't see it. I honestly think they don't move him till the summer, anyways. When they have time to do all this. Yeah, see, that's you take away the first. No, that's too rich for me. I can't get our 28 first. I could do, but take that second out, and I'd maybe think about it, Costa. I'd think about it. It'd be a lot of sleepless nights, but I'd think about it. Also, we don't know if Robert Thomas even wants to come to Boston. He has full control over what he wants to do. I don't know if it's a full no trade or no move, but he's not coming to Boston if he doesn't want to come to Boston. So like that's another thing too that you got to think about. Like they could have either already offered this up, and Robert Thomas could have been like, "No, I don't want to go to Boston." So there's that as well, right? So we could just be putting a package together that like doesn't even make sense because why the fuck? Oh, damn it! I went the whole time. Why, what? He's like, why would I want to go there? Then, the trade, what we're doing doesn't even matter. Um, Willing to, what's it? Oh, he also talked about how rental market not at the top of the list, looking for control or extension, which makes sense with the Tippett news, which makes sense with the Parenko news, which makes sense with the Robert Thomas news, like all this stuff. Like I'm sure those are the types of guys they've been checking on. I wouldn't be shocked. I'm not saying I want him, but I wouldn't be shocked if they've checked in on Elias Pettersson. They're looking for like 20, let's say like 23 to 27-year-olds that have term and are in an unfavorable situation. So let's see what happens there. I don't see them bringing in a rental unless it's like a guy that I've been thinking about is like, what if Claude Giroux's like, hey, I want to go to Boston, and I'm sure that wouldn't be his first choice. He's got a full no movement clause, but I mean like a guy who essentially is like, hey, trade me to Boston. I wouldn't be shocked if Sweeney makes a little bit of a swing on that, maybe a third rounder, second rounder, a couple years from now, just to give the guys an attaboy, something that they can stomach or maybe even get back in another trade. So we'll see about that. This is what I was getting to. I think a lot of the deals that they are looking at are going to be easier to complete in the off season or the draft. I think there's a lot of irons that they have in the fire that I wouldn't be shocked if there's deals, because it's another thing about the deadline. You got to remember, this is a time where you set up deals for the draft too. Like sometimes you're just setting up a deal like, all right, we can't do this now, but like, can we revisit this in the summer or at the draft? That absolutely happens at this time of year. So I wouldn't be shocked. Like a lot of the way that Sweeney was talking, it's like, hey, we want to do this, but we literally can't make it work with our cap. They don't want what we have, or to make the cap work for hockey trade wise, or we got to see where these firsts end up. A lot of things could be the reason why some of these deals might not get done that have been rumored that the Bruins are in on. So I think we're going to be, I wouldn't be shocked if it's a more eventful off season and draft than trade deadline. And sometimes that's just the way the cookie crumbles. Let's see. St. Louis had the bigwigs in the building at the Columbus game. Yeah, I did see that. I personally think that's more Parenko than Robert Thomas. That's just my honest opinion. I don't think they're very interested in Falk. I think they checked in on it, but I think they'd rather the price of Parenko. Also, remember Parenko was an Olympian not with Don Sweeney, but on a roster that Don Sweeney helped assemble at this past Olympics. So I think them being at those games has more to do with the Parenko side of things or maybe they're looking at players for the future of Robert Thomas. I don't know, but I just don't know if that deal gets done before the deadline. When he was discussing the rental situation, he brought up the potential to get someone we'd have the potential to re-sign for sure. My mind went to someone like Drysdale, although I have no clue if Philly would trade. Excuse me. I don't know if it would be Drysdale just because they only have 2 right-handed shot defensemen, and apparently they're trying to trade Ristolainen. So maybe not Drysdale, but he did say that. It's actually a point I was about to get to soon. He did say that, and I thought it was very interesting because then you start thinking about UFAs. Like, who have they been talking to that, that they would have permission to figure out if this is somewhere that you'd want to extend? Do I see them doing the Vegas thing? of just getting a guy like Rasmus Anderson and just hoping that he really likes it in Vegas and being like, all right, like let's just hope to God that this guy likes it here because everyone else that we bring in on trade likes it and then ends up signing an extension. I don't know if they'll do something like that. I think they need more reassurances to be like, okay, there's a deal to be made here. We just have to like iron it out over the next couple months. Kind of like your Hampus Lindholm trade. I know they wanted to with Bertuzzi, but the money was never going to work. So it could be that as well. Wouldn't be, yeah. Oh yeah. That's what sorry, just reading. Wouldn't be shocked in the slightest if they don't see a deal they like and then keep the UFAs as depth for a playoff push. I mentioned this a bit earlier, but like I had unhappy guys in quotations. You don't want to make your guys unhappy, right? And he mentioned that there's unhappy guys not playing right now on the roster. So you got to think about that as well. But like like I said before, I wouldn't be shocked if they don't even trade Peak and they just roll with it and keep him as a depth defenseman, use him as their own rental because they've restocked the farm pretty good last year. So we'll see. It sounds like most of the college prospects will continue in the NCAA unless they are graduating or aging out, like Gazzo was mentioned. It sounds like he'll be getting signed by the Bruins, and there's a couple other guys, but he also mentioned, a few guys will be turning pro. I'd be shocked if Hagens doesn't turn pro at this point on just what he's doing. It's funny that he also mentioned that he likes the versatility of Hagens right now, playing all three positions. When I say all three positions, I mean left wing, center, and right wing. The internal messaging for him and his note taking on criticism has been very good over this year, I guess. And he's also producing while that's happening, which is something that Sweeney mentioned. Like I said, I'd be shocked if he doesn't make the jump pro at least this year. But like Sweeney said, like it might just be easier for him to jump in on the wing with the type of centers we have right now and center depth we have right now. So like I said, there will be opportunity for him. But like Sweeney said, he'll ultimately decide whether he plays in the NHL or not with the play that he brings when he signs and goes pro this year. So I'd be shocked if Hagens isn't with the club. They have the contract spots to do so. So it's going to be exciting to see him hopefully in the black and gold if he can get his way up there. Yeah, Gazzo's been great. Another guy, they also talked about dual position players, which the Boston Bruins love. Geeky, Zaka, Asemont, Kostelic, Jeannot. The list goes on with the type of players that they have that are dual position. Lorai at this point, he can play both sides. That was a shout out to to somebody that hates Lorai. We'll just say that. Let's see. Yeah, with Peak on an expiring deal and Lorai playing the right side, I thought that comment spoke words, even though it was just a small comment. They're definitely looking for a right-hand shot defenseman, and I'm not going to be shocked if Lorai is the expendable one in there, especially with how well Asparat's played and Zadorov, obviously, you're not going to move Lindholm or Zadorov. They both have no movement clauses, but I think that they see Lorai expendable and that they can replace him within the organization eventually. So I'd hate to see him go. I don't mind his game, but I know a lot of people would be very, very happy to see Lorai off of this roster. And you know what? I get it. I like his game. I think, him being a forward, switching to D, and how well he's playing in the NHL. It's pretty good. I think a lot of teams would really like a Lorai on their team. I just don't know if he fits this roster anymore or this system, I guess you could say. Oh, they want to trade for it and develop players similar to Minton. Someone ready this year, next year, or near future. That makes a lot of sense. It's been status quo. Like Sweeney said, there's been plans set in place. They don't want to move too far away from it, which is music to my ears because I just been worried that they're gonna listen to everyone online and be like, you know what, these first round picks are burning a hole in our pocket. Let's go trade it for Elias Pettersson. I don't even know, like somebody that just doesn't make sense for this roster or organization going forward. He said he's really happy with Sturm and what he's been able to do with this condensed season. If you listen to the podcast, you know we are big Sturmy guys. Happy for Sturm as well. He's really turned this around. He's really jump started this retool in the best way imaginable. So, you know, I was gonna say we'll see what happens there. No, I get this guy an extension already. In my opinion, love Sturm. There's comments about Patras continuing to round out his game. They're happy with how he played when he was called up. Staying healthy is going to be an issue for him, but they've put a lot into getting him back to where he was pre-shoulder. I got the worst tongue twisters. Shoulder surgery. There we go. But then he did mention, like, you know, he's got to manage the game better. He's got to manage his shifts better. The puck management needs to get better. But it just kind of feels like me even with the comments he made about Patra, it just kind of feels like he's the odd man out in this system. Like, we don't even have to talk about Lysell. I don't even know if I can beat that drum anymore. But yeah, his comments on Patra were really good, and he gave him high praise, especially with the call up. But like, it just kind of feels like he's on the odd man out, looking on the inside at this point. Because if they really loved where his game was at and today, then he'd be in the roster, in my opinion. So we'll see where that goes. Wouldn't be shocked if he's used as an asset here going forward. He doesn't want to move any of his top prospects or first unless the right deal comes along for now and the future that they can stomach. And I think that comment goes off what I was talking about earlier. Like, yeah, you're paying a lot now right before the deadline to get guys, opposed to if you wait till the offseason and the trade deadline, the draft. My brain's mush right now. But it was nice to hear him say, like, there are some untouchables. Like, I'm sure he also said if the right deal falls on my lap, like, you know, anything could change with the phone call. So it's just my personal opinion. I'm glad that, like, in my personal opinion, the untouchables right now are Toronto's first, Hagens, Letourneau, Zellers. Those are my 4 untouchables. I would be willing to move our first for the right piece. I'd be willing to throw in Cole Simpson for the right piece. I'd be willing to throw in Wilmore for the right piece. Name it. Patra. I don't even know who else. Lori. But, yeah, we'll see what happens with that. You never know. Tomorrow, I could look like the biggest idiot in the world, and we traded 3 first-round picks, Hagens and Letourneau for Robert Thomas. So we'll see what happens. They want to be a playoff team despite last year and still restocking the farm. This one's interesting to me because it's like, okay, did you just say all that to say it? Like, would you trade for rental? I don't think they will, but they do want to get back in the playoffs. Like he said, I'm going to do whatever I can to get this team back in the playoffs. And then once they get in the playoffs, it's up to them. So, like I said, they're 4 points out of third in the Atlantic, and they hold a 4-point lead, I believe, with the wild card. So we'll see what happens there. Oh, yeah. And like I said earlier, they're farther along than they thought they would be, but the plan hasn't changed, and there's still work to do with this roster and with, I think, just the overall vision of the organization going forward. I did think it was awesome that, like, you can say whatever you want about Sweeney, you can say whatever you want about going all in or not going all in, the years that he did and didn't. But the comment, not, I'm not gonna apologize for not trying to win. Sorry, I'm not gonna apologize for trying to win, but I will apologize that we haven't won yet. Love that comment from Sweeney, because it's just the truth. Like, he, there's been years that he's done everything he can to win, and sometimes it just doesn't bounce your way, or you don't score that goal on a breakaway, or you make a bad line change in game 7, or your goalie breaks his rib and your captain breaks his rib like a week before the playoffs. Sometimes those things just happen. And then there's other years where it's like, yeah, I probably should have went all in and I didn't. 2019. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. We'll see what happens going forward. What about Kovacek in New Jersey, right-handed 28, long-term deal, $4 million. Honestly, I don't. Yeah, that's essentially what I was getting at, Costa. It's not his fault they choked. But anyways, I don't even want to talk about that because it's funny because Toronto's having the same problem happen to them this year after doing the exact same thing against that certain team that I will not mention. They're having a tough year this year. But Kovacevic, I think his name is. I always want to say Kovacevic, but it's Kovacevic, I believe. I actually would welcome this. Guy's a gamer. He's got the term. I know there's a lot of money tied up in defense in New Jersey. I don't see them getting out from that Dougie Hamilton contract unless they pay heavily for it to do so. If you could go in and swindle, they could use some center depth as well. Like, if you could go in and swindle Kovacevic away from New Jersey, I actually don't hate that at all. Is it a 4 or 6 year deal at $4 million? I think this is the first year of that deal. I guess I could just check myself instead of being lazy. Puckpedia. Let's go see. Yeah, he's a big guy. Yeah, plays a heavy game. Yeah, he's a gamer too. Like, I know they really like him there. They've got $2.9 million in cap space. What does it say here? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 4 years after this year, ends in 2030 with most of the core. He's a good defensive defenseman. I think he'd do wonders for Lindholm. I like that trade. I really like that trade. Yeah. Yeah, that would be, honestly, that's the type of guy you bring into your core to shore up your defense so that you can actually be heavier to play against, be better defensively. Like, I don't know. But for me, right now, I think they should be trying to go and get a goal scorer. I think you can't score. Your defenseman's the only one that, a guy who doesn't even put the net puck in the net a lot, like Charlie McAvoy. He's the only guy that scored against Philly. Like, come on, man. I don't know. So, and Swayman played a great game too. You can't even say it on him. What? Oh, I was like, what, Marty? You just come in and just speaking hieroglyphics to me? Yeah, if you were here when you're supposed to be here, I talked about how the Bruins see Lohrei as expendable. They're playing him on the right side right now, which he's been playing really good on the right side, but I think they're set with having Zadorov, Lindholm, and Asperot as their left side. And wouldn't be shocked if Lohrei's used in a package with Patra to try and bring in a big game player, big game piece with term that's actually going to move the needle for this roster. So we'll see what happens. I hope Lohrei doesn't get traded. I know a lot of people out there want Lohrei traded. I'm looking right at you. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I'd rather trade for Besser than Garland, but the injuries do scare me a bit. But Besser does. I talked about this on the podcast too. Oh, sorry, I dislocated my shoulder recently, so it's really bugging me. I wouldn't be shocked if the Bruins traded for Besser, and here's why. Vancouver has a lot of players we like. They've had a lot of players. We've had a lot of players in our system that they've liked for a while. That's why we keep seeing the trade partner rumors come up between the two teams. Besser also turned down a deal from Boston last summer to stay in Vancouver. He knows they're interested. They obviously must have been interested in each other enough to have those conversations. But what's it going to cost you, and how healthy is he going to stay? Those are the questions I have. The travel's a lot easier in the East. We have a really good medical staff in Boston. These are things that I think would benefit Besser. One of his best friends is Casey Middlestat. They hang out in the summers all year long. So, they've been talking about how great Boston is. So, I know he's a Minnesota guy. It brings him a little more east than he probably wants to get. But I'd way rather Besser over Connor Garland if the Bruins are getting one of them. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I just wanted to hop in here and do this. Excuse me. Before we're about just over 4 days, a little under 5 away from the trade deadline. It's this Friday at 3 p.m. It's going to be really good. I'm doing a live stream from 10 a.m. Eastern to whenever we decide to get off. Sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's 4. I think one year we didn't get off till like 5 or 6. I think it was on from like 8 a.m. because I'm a psycho till 6 p.m. Eastern time, so that was crazy. But we're gonna have Bobby with me. We got guests coming in, popping by. Maybe Meat Man will make his annual Marty the Meat Man, maybe he will make his annual guest appearance. I think he came on last year or maybe 2 years ago. I think both years, but anyways. So we'll see what happens. 5 days out. I'm going to keep posting trades. I'm going to keep posting YouTube shorts and clips and stuff. We're going to stay on top of this as best as possible. A whole lot could happen. A whole lot of nothing can happen. Everything can change with a phone call. But thank you to everybody that was in the chat giving me stuff to talk about. Thank you for listening to me rant for the past 45 minutes plus. Like I said, we will be back. We will be back. Podcast will drop Friday morning as usual. We'll be recording Thursday night unless something crazy happens or something's in the work. I don't know. Like trade wise, I mean. But the podcast will be out this Friday. And then, like I said, after you listen to the podcast, you can hop right over to the live stream and we will be chilling, talking all things trade. Thanks, Costa. This was a lot of fun. Check out our YouTube. We got a lot of stuff like this. We do live streams all the time. And as always, you have been great. I've been Brett Howard. Thanks for stopping by. Stay cool. Till next time. Peace.